Every day we interact with dozens of people at work, on transport, within our families, and online. Yet rarely does anyone truly show themselves as they are. Polite smiles, confident voices, and well-thought-out answers may be nothing more than a role, a mask, concealing something deeper and more complex. We live in a world where social masks have become the norm, while sincerity is a rarity. The second technique, attitude towards people in a low position. If you truly want to know a person, pay attention not to how they behave with you, but to how they treat those they consider below themselves. This is not just about status or wealth. It could be a waiter, a driver, a cleaner, a young employee who has just started their career, or someone in a vulnerable position. In such moments, the mask created for equals or superior slips, and what remains is a manifestation of the shadow. Many know how to be polite when it benefits them. They smile, joke, and show interest. But as soon as someone appears who depends on nothing from them, they allow themselves irritation, coldness, or contempt. This is an important moment. A person who is self-assured and internally balanced does not divide people into important and insignificant. They have no need to elevate themselves at another's expense. But someone who feels weak inside, who has not reconciled with their shadow, often uses such situations to assert themselves. This is a form of projection, a way to cope with their own insecurity by humiliating another. Jungian psychology teaches that how we treat people at the bottom of the social ladder reflects what is happening within us. It is a mirror, and it rarely lies. When a person is rude to a waiter, interrupts a cleaner, or shows contempt for a cashier, they are not just showing poor manners. They are showing that there is much unaccepted darkness within them. In such moments, their shadow comes out. Pride, fear, resentment, or a sense of their own inferiority masked as arrogance. True kindness is not behavior on stage, but actions performed in the shadows when no one is watching, and there is no benefit. Look at someone who seems charming and friendly, how they treat those who can give them nothing. If their behavior changes sharply, it is a red flag. The mask has slipped, leaving the shadow. And the sharper this contrast, the deeper the internal conflict. But this rule also works in reverse. If a person remains respectful, kind, and attentive even to those who are weaker, it speaks of deep inner stability. They are not playing a role, they are simply living in accordance with their true self. They do not divide the world into useful and unnecessary. They do not need to prove their significance. This does not mean they are naive or weak. On the contrary, it is a manifestation of inner strength and maturity. Observing such behavior, you not only understand the person more deeply, you see their system of values, see how far they have progressed on the path of personal integration, see how honest they are not only with others but also with themselves, see how much they have accepted their shadow or continue to run from it. If you want to better understand not only others but also yourself, ask yourself the same question. How do you behave with those from whom you need nothing? Do you maintain dignity, gentleness, and respect? Or do you allow yourself irritation, mockery, or indifference? The answer to this question can reveal much about both your shadow and your maturity. The third technique, the past as a source of the shadow. If you truly want to understand a person, look into their past, not to judge, but to see where the roots of their present behavior, reactions, and decisions grow from. The past does not disappear completely, even if the person says it is all behind them. Their words, actions, and emotions continue to bear the imprint of what they have experienced. It is there, in forgotten episodes, hidden traumas, and unresolved conflicts, that their shadow lives. A person who faced humiliation in childhood may react sharply to criticism in adulthood. Someone who has experienced betrayal may find it difficult to trust. Someone who was ignored may constantly seek recognition and confirmation of their significance. These patterns of behavior are not always conscious, but they become part of the personality, the hidden part that Jung called the shadow. The shadow is formed not only from dark episodes, sometimes even good memories can leave it a mark. For example, a person who was excessively praised for their successes may spend their whole life fearing failure, trying to meet others' expectations. Outwardly, they will be confident and purposeful, but inwardly vulnerable and tired of the constant race. This fatigue rarely manifests openly, but it is felt in their tension, intolerance, and criticism of everything that falls outside their control. Jungian psychology asserts that everything repressed will inevitably manifest. Memories that a person turns away from do not disappear. They become ghosts, dictating their behavior in the present. These ghosts are not always hostile, but they require attention, and if the person does not recognize their influence, they begin to control their life. Observing someone who seems to react calmly to everything, but suddenly explodes over a trifle. Do not be so surprised, but ask what from the past they are reliving at that moment. Perhaps it is not just irritation, but an old, painful story that has awakened. And even if the person themselves does not understand this, their shadow has already joined the process. Understanding the past provides incredible depth in the. This is not an excuse for someone's toxic behavior, but it is an understanding of why they act in a certain way. This gives you the opportunity to react not with judgment, but with inner stability and clarity. But this technique works not only externally, it primarily requires turning inward. What past reactions are stirring within you today? What experiences are you running from? What fears are you hiding behind confidence or silence? The shadow lives not only in others, it lives in us too. The better you understand how the past shapes the present, the easier it becomes to accept people as they are, not as ideal beings, but as complex, contradictory personalities in whom live experience, pain, and hope. To see this means to stop demanding perfection from others and to start truly understanding. The fourth technique, sudden changes in tone, a signal of internal conflict. One of the most subtle but eloquent signs that a person is hiding something or is internally tense is a change in their voice. We can control words, choose expressions, and smile at the right moment. But the voice, especially its intonations, timbre, and pauses, often reveals what the consciousness is trying to conceal. When the tone suddenly changes, it is almost always a sign that the shadow has been activated. Imagine a person confidently talking about a project, and then, when the conversation turns to their responsibility or a mistake, their voice becomes higher, their speech speeds up, nervous laughter appears, or conversely, a heavy pause. This is not just a reaction. It is an internal struggle in which the persona and the shadow engage. The persona wants to maintain the image of a competent, calm, and confident individual, while the shadow, the part where fears, insecurities, and shame live, begins to speak through the voice. Often we cannot explain why we suddenly begin to doubt the sincerity of an interlocutor. They are speaking, but something about them seems off. And that something is the intonation, the change in rhythm, a slight tremor, an unaccustomed loudness, or conversely, a hushed voice. The voice becomes a conductor between the external image and the internal truth. It is like a crack in the wall, small and almost imperceptible, but through it, you can peek inside. What lies hidden behind these masks, and why is it so vital to understand? In this video, we will discuss the shadow, the hidden side of personality that a person either does not recognize or does not want to acknowledge. We will explore how the shadow manifests in people's behavior, why it can influence our relationships, and how to learn to recognize it in those around us. We will examine 5 techniques based on Jungian psychology to see people more deeply beyond words and appearances. These methods will not only reveal the truth about others, but also allow you to better understand yourself. It is particularly telling when a person speaks about things that concern the shadow, mistakes, weaknesses, the past, or doubts. If their voice changes at this moment, if tension or forced cheerfulness appears, it may be a way to hide what causes them discomfort. Sometimes the person themselves does not realize they sound unnatural, but an attentive listener will feel it. It is important to remember that not every glitch in the voice is a lie. More often, it is an internal conflict. The person may not want to lie, but fears being exposed. They may not want to appear weak and therefore sound too confident. The shadow does not always lie, it simply defends itself and the voice becomes its shield or mask. Conversations in which you catch changes in intonation are an opportunity to hear more than what is said in words. It is an opportunity to notice where the person begins to hide, where their persona is trying to maintain control, but the shadow has already come to the surface. It is especially useful to observe the voice in answers to unexpected questions when the person does not have time to prepare and sounds as they feel. The Jungian practice of mindful listening teaches us to be attentive not only to the meaning, but also to the energy of speech. Where the glitch begins, there lives the shadow. Where a phrase is accompanied by a heavy sigh or strange cheerfulness, something is wrong. This is not a reason for accusations. It is a reason for deeper understanding. And if you truly want to see a person, listen not only to their words, but also to how they utter them, especially attentively in those moments when the topic concerns their self-esteem, vulnerability, or past. It is in these moments that the voice becomes the most honest storyteller. And if you learn to hear it, you will see much more than meets the eye. The fifth technique, behavior when a person thinks no one is watching. A person's true essence manifests not when they are in full view, but when they are sure no one is watching. It is in these moments that the mask of the persona weakens and the inner shadow comes out. In public, a person tries to be the best version of themselves, restrained, polite, and friendly. But when they are left in the shadows, when the light of attention fades, they return to their true self. This technique requires subtle observation. Look at how a person behaves in small things when they are alone in a room, when they think no one is listening, when they communicate with someone who is not important to them. It is in these moments that they are not playing a role. They are simply existing, and how they exist speaks more than any of their words. For example, an employee who is always polite and collected in the presence of superiors may become abrupt and irritable as soon as the office door closes, or a friend who smiles and jokes in public becomes apathetic and withdrawn in solitude. This is not hypocrisy. It is a manifestation of an unintegrated shadow. It is a sign that external behavior does not match the internal state, and the stronger this discrepancy, the less whole the person is. Jungian psychology emphasizes that the striving for wholeness is the striving for agreement between who a person seems to be and who they are. Those who live with this split allow their persona to function as a facade, to please, to convince, to protect, while their shadow continues to live separately, breaking through in those moments when control weakens. If you want to know how honest a person is with themselves, look at how they behave when they think no one is watching. It can be a small thing, how they talk about others behind their backs, how they treat things when there is no need to put on a show. Authenticity is always revealed in silence, off stage, out of the light. Such observations are especially important in relationships at the initial stages. People try to show their best side. They say what is pleasant to hear and try to meet expectations. But the true character manifests later, in everyday life, in tired evenings, in difficult